Hey, folks, welcome here to another episode, another installment of our Stories Project. We've only had one so far. That was me and my pops. Today we have a very special guest. In fact, this guy flew in from out of town just to do the show. Nothing, nobody.
Yep, I'm not here to see family. I'm not here to experience this bullshit weather for my vacation. All for you. That's why I flew in.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So we are honored to have you,
Yeah,
sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Folks, let me introduce you to my good. Well, actually, we should probably preface this, right?
Should I introduce myself?
You can, but what was it? 10 days ago, 8 days ago, all over our social media pages and everything else, except for YouTube. So welcome, Dan, to YouTube on 3 Clicks Media.
Great.
I had posted a reel about ramp ceremonies that I had went to while deployed to Iraq and with my friend Dan, and here is Dan. Magically, he appeared, and he flew here just for us.
Just for you guys. Just for 3 clicks.
So Dan, yes, please take a minute, introduce yourself to our friends here.
Yeah. So I'm Dan. I don't like giving out my last name because I actually use a different one now.
Okay.
So we'll just go with that. You dimed me out in your last one, but that's fine. I appreciate
Sorry.
that. Hail from Minnesota. Both my wife and I do, and now in the Seattle area. And we have a show called Dirty Dad's Podcast there. So anybody that listens to Dirty Dad's Podcast, I think all of your listeners should definitely listen to it.
Absolutely.
You give us a little shout out, and I thought it would be fun to do kind of like a co-branded episode, which is 3 clicks and then Dirty Dads, and see where it goes from there. So super happy to be here. Great to see you. It's been a really long time. I think it's been roughly 10 years, maybe.
Since we've hung out, I saw you
Yeah.
briefly when your dad passed
Right.
a few years back.
That was a terrible hangout day.
Yeah, well, I don't know that was a hangout day. It was a sad day.
Yeah.
But it was good to see you and your family, your mom and all that. But yes, very sad day. Hey, pull that mic a little closer to your mouth.
You need it closer to me? Like
Yeah,
right there.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Talk real low.
Beautiful.
Just don't make it spike too hard.
Okay, so let's just get rolling.
Sure.
So the first thing that we would like to know about you
Yeah.
is a little bit about your past and what led you to join the military. And what did your service look like? How
Okay.
long, what branch?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think we all know what branch, but lay it all out for us.
I was just a pothead stoner kid that went to parties all the time and wanted to be, of all things, an artist or an English teacher. So I deviated from that really quickly. Actually, when I found out how much they make, that was kind of a selling point not to be a teacher. No offense to any of the teachers out there. It actually happened when I was hanging out with, my wife's brother we were really tight growing up, her little brother. And we decided to get fucked up one night. That's a good way of saying it. I'm not going to say like the full extent of it, but needless to say, her father told myself and her brother to go to bed or just go downstairs and he'll see us in the morning. And my wife's dad was an early riser, so he came down at about 5:45, 6 a.m., told us to come upstairs and go outside and have a cup of coffee and shake it all off, and we're going to have a conversation. Oh. And I would say the great conversation, it was definitely adult to child. But the one thing that my dad always said to me was like, if you keep hanging out with shit, it's going to stick. And
good words.
The way that her father put it was, if you continue down this path, you're going to amount to nothing. You're not going to go anywhere in life. So that following week, that was the weekend. So the next week, I went into my school counselor, who I knew was in the Guard, and I said, I need you to get me signed up in the Army. And he's like, bro, I can't do that. It's like,
are you sure?
Well, it was against the rules of the school. And I was in college at the time, and I was like, no, that's cool, but I need you to take me to a recruiting station. So he's like, all right, at lunch, meet me like halfway down the street, and I'll pick you up and we'll go there. So I went down, took the ASVAB, scored really well on it, and signed the papers that day.
Why the military though? Like, why did you pick that? After those conversations, why was your choice, all right, Army it is?
I don't think there's really any good answer to that. I think for me it was, let's pull myself out of the situation the best way possible. How can I escape being a stoner and being a shithead and going to raves and going to parties every weekend or every other night? How do I pull myself away from this so much that I have no connection to it? And the only thing that popped into my head was Army, because my guidance counselor in college was in the Army National Guard. And it was like the only thing that drew me to it. I didn't think like, oh, Air Force, Marines, Navy. Now I know. Whew, dodged a bullet on Air Force and Navy. Marines are amazing. They're good people. No offense, Army or Air Force and Navy. You guys are good people too. But yeah, it just really was like a convenient situation because that's the kind of person I was. I was like, oh, this seems easy. Signed my paperwork in 2001, and I said, I want to leave after my 21st birthday, which is October 6th. We all know what happened in September of 2001, and I was having breakfast with my dad on September 11th, and I can tell you exactly, I was eating a bagel. It was in the toaster. I dropped it. We saw the first plane hit. Toaster popped, put some cream cheese on it, hopped over the couch, sat down with my dad. Second plane hit, and he looked at me and he's like, you're going to war. I'm so sorry. I was like, again.
Get out of here.
Get out of here. So, yeah, that is. And then I ended up in basic. And
so it's kind of one of those like out of sight, out of mind things. Right?
100%.
Like if I just remove myself completely from this situation, it'll go away. I'll get over it. And you know what, man? It's crazy that knowing knowing your story as well as I do, and of course knowing my own, how similar they are, has always been astounding to me.
Because we were both kind of shitheads.
I was for sure a shithead.
Yeah.
And I was in a situation. I didn't necessarily have anybody that was like, look, man, you're gonna, like, nobody ever was like, you hang out with shit, it's gonna stick.
Right.
But I was in situations where people were like, all right, man, are you done? Like, are you done with this?
I find it really strange though, because every time my dad said it, it amounted to nothing.
Yeah.
When somebody else's parent pulls you aside and says,
Look,
I'm just going to be honest with you. You're kind of a piece of shit right now. And that's the only way I saw it. I was like, clearly I am, throughout my entire life, and I would say to anybody that has kids out there, your kid's going to be a shithead with you. The moment they go somewhere else and you get compliments back, like that's how they reflect, how they're being raised and everything else out in the world. We get it for my son all the time. Like people call me, oh my God, he was so amazing. He's so wonderful to be here.
yeah.
That's what it used to be like for me until this one moment where somebody else's parent was being honest with me and like, you're not so great. And I don't know why it stuck so much that weekend. And yeah, so I signed some paperwork to get the fuck out of there.
Do you remember the point in which, once you left for basic, do you remember the point in which like you were bought into, all right, man?
Day one.
Really?
Day one.
You had no apprehension. You were just.
There was a little bit when you hopped off that deuce and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It was weird because, I was in high school sports. I did all of the things. I have very strict family members. A lot were in the service. It wasn't so shocking to me to just put my shit on a yellow line and then stand next to it. pretty easy direction. And I just, looking around while not looking around because you're supposed to look straight. I mean, people were fumble fucking over themselves and just couldn't figure it out. It's like, just put your duffel bag on this spot and stand next to it. And I was like,
and don't move.
Don't move.
That's it.
And, a couple drill sergeants yelled in my face. There was a moment where I was like, woof, what did I just get myself into? Yeah. And then it was the front lean and rest because nobody else could figure it out. And I didn't even know what that meant. So I was like, And when you figure it out, I was like, oh, well, this is just the push-up position.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it was day one where I was like, all right, I may have made a tough decision, but how bad could it be? And, it was kind of shitty for a couple of weeks, but it got better. I just had a really shitty battle buddy. That's all.
Did you have the shit bag where you had to carry his stuff and
he would fall asleep at random moments. He was lazy. Kim was his last name. I couldn't tell you his first name. Couldn't pick him out. Could not pick this guy out of a crowd. And if I did, I might have
probably
words
slap
for him.
Yeah. You son of a bitch.
Yeah. But no, it was good, man. Like I was in for 12 years. It wasn't an easy go for me. When I got back from AIT, I was in Maryland. I went to Aberdeen Proving Grounds. When I got back, I didn't report into my duty station. I was kind of a dipshit. I didn't really know what I was supposed to do when I got back home. So I didn't go to drill for a couple of weekends, maybe like 4 months, 5 months.
When you got home from AIT?
Right.
Oh, dear. They didn't send anybody to your house or nothing?
No phone calls. And I will say, when we got back from deployment in 2007, also got in a little bit of trouble. I can be honest, I used to like to drink more than I ever should. Mm-hmm. No phone calls. No anything. No check-ins, and I chalk it up to leadership. I'll own it on myself as well, but I don't think my leadership was super solid, and God bless them. I had some great leaders, but it just wasn't good at the end.
Yeah, man. I think there's a lot of shitty leadership in the military, and now more than ever, but that's probably a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
What did you do? What was your job?
I was a 45 kilo, and I don't think it exists anymore.
Which is?
It's an armament repair. So one would think, oh, you're popping tracks on tanks. Not popping tracks on tanks. I worked primarily on I only worked on the turret systems and the engine systems. So on an M1 Abrams with all of the designations for it, the Bradleys, FISVs, ITVs, self-propelled howitzers, towed howitzers, shit that doesn't exist anymore. I got to work on a couple of really cool programs that we had at one point. The LRAS system was really neat. So, yeah, I got to do a lot of really cool stuff. But when I left the Guard and joined the reserves, that was when I hit my breaking points. And it was when I was telling some individuals to go out to the motor pool to do a thing, and they did oh, come on, man. And I lit them up, and I got yelled at for yelling at them to just go do their job. This is a normal thing that we do in the Army.
Used to be.
Yeah. And they were all on their cell phones just shooting the shit in a supply room, not doing a damn thing. And that's when I was told that we can't yell at soldiers or even discipline in the way that we were taught how to discipline. That's when I washed my hands of it.
Or the discipline that we got. I mean,
right.
I got my ass lit up plenty of times.
So many times.
Yeah.
So many times.
Well, and so that's interesting because that's not the job you did on deployment. Folks, I'd like to let you know that one of the first times I ever met Dan was when he was gracious enough.
Glorious moment.
It was glorious. He was gracious enough to help me change the oil on my Humvee in the middle of the desert in Iraq. So imagine standing in the middle of a sandbox with the blow dryer on your face, and you're just pissed, right? Because you've been standing out there all day dealing with idiots and dummies that don't know shit. And here comes my chubby ass. Hey, Sarge, can you help me change my... I didn't know how to change any oil. So he did.
No, but how did I help you?
Well, you
I
told...
handed you a wrench.
Yeah. And then you kind of talked me through what the steps were.
Right.
And after I had been underneath the Humvee for a good 12 minutes, loosening the drain plug, loosening, I had made mention that, I don't know, man. I think maybe it got too hot and it welded itself. I don't know. So Dan does what any good helper does and comes down underneath to see what's going on.
Any good NCO, right? Any good NCO is going to hop down
right.
and
see what's
hey,
going
let's
on.
walk through this. We'll see if there's a problem. And Richard had tightened the bolt so much that it was actually the oil pan was moving in.
Yep.
He was bending the steel oil pan.
Yep.
And I went, it's lefty loosey. You've just been cranking it down. And we got but we had to replace the oil pan.
That's right.
After that. So it was more work.
The instruction was, well, good luck, but you need to go find an oil pan, which was a whole nother adventure. But this is just to show that cross-training in the Army is very important.
It's vital.
Yeah.
It's vital.
Everybody should know everybody else's job when and if you can.
Well, and also how cars work.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
So you had a life of luxury of just going into a Jiffy Lube and saying, I need an oil change before all of this.
Well, it's probably pretty safe to say that up until that point in my life, I hadn't been very good at taking care of cars, and I might have had 2 oil changes.
That's not how cars work.
Yeah, not
All
at
right.
all.
No.
Which is probably why I had been through a few at that point.
Okay, yeah, no, fair enough. Like every 5,000 miles, but
Yeah.
you were a 15K guy?
I was told at one point that my car didn't really have any oil in it. And I was asked when I had it changed last, and I didn't know.
Yeah.
And the guy asked me, well, how long have you had the car? And I said, like almost a year. He goes, you never had the oil changed? No, it runs great. And so that car didn't last me very long.
Weird.
Yeah. So anyway, but this is not about me.
Yeah.
Let's.
Well, no, I mean, it's still my story. You're just part of it.
But this just goes to show you how gracious of an NCO Dan was. And so let's move on. Dan was very gracious, and he helped me out a lot, and I really appreciate it. So Dan, if you could leave the world, your kids, anybody else that loves and cares about you, with one story, one memory, one thing about your service, good, bad, or indifferent, what would it be? Something that you want them to carry with them. And maybe not even your family, maybe just the general populace or people in general. What's your story? What do you want your story to be?
It's not my story. It's just, I think I say this to my son and all of his friends who are great kids every now and again, is give back in some way and do a civil service. It doesn't have to be the service.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we live in a very selfish world right now. And, through and through, I live my life now after a number of issues that I've had. I went through 10 years of therapy to just feel normal again. And I think what I've always wanted to impart on everybody that I surround myself with now is just do good deeds, even when somebody doesn't ask you to do a good deed. And civil service is a good deed. It really, really is. The one thing that the Army taught me, with all of its ups and downs and me being a shitbag and I think being called college boy, you think you're so fucking smart all the fucking time because I was a smart ass.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I did pull out of it from all of the great leaders that I had then and now is give as much as you possibly can to make people better or to make the situation better.
Or give them a chance anyway,
Or give
the
them a
opportunity.
chance. I've been assigned quote unquote shitbags, and they're not. They're just people they're just younger kids that need that next step up. They need a mentor. Everybody needs to do something. And I find myself, even to this day, putting myself out to make sure that others are happy, that I can help others. If it's, hey, my sink is broken, bro, I'll be there in a minute. Let me just grab some tools. I got this. No problem. Just give it a second. And nobody does that anymore. Nobody helps anybody anymore. And it's wild to me that we have gone from, I think, a country where we would break our backs just to help our neighbors, and now we shut our doors to everybody. And that's, we have to figure out the turning point for all of us, and it's how we raise our kids.
I agree.
Is just show some fucking grace and help people out. That sounds weird as a story that I would like to.
Well, I don't know
leave
that
the
it
world
sounds
with,
weird,
but
bro. I don't know
it's-
that it is.
Because it's not like
It's
my
not a story
military-
anybody talks about anymore. People
Right.
don't talk about that.
In my military history, it's jaded, right? Like even to this day, I'm like, it was a good 12 years, but there were moments of it where, I should have done something different, or I wish I had better leadership. But ultimately, it came down to everything that I took away from the military, I still live with every single day. Do I fly a flag in front of my house? I don't. Do I think our country is falling apart? I absolutely do. Do I still cry when I hear the Star Spangled Banner? You bet.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of but I'm still like through and through. I am a patriot. I just want I don't want to say I want people to love each other because that sounds hippy dippy, but it is very much like help your brothers, help your sisters, whoever they are. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Right on. Well, hey, man.
Don't be a shitbag.
Well, I think that those are important narratives to talk about because it's not what's in the space currently. It's not a common conversation. We have become a place in the world where you're right. People shut their doors on each other.
Absolutely.
We have lost the ability to agree to disagree on many things.
Everything.
Even up to the point where folks are killing each other.
It's gotten to the point where just because you believe in something politically, people just shut you out of their lives. Like wholeheartedly, like, I love you, bro.
But just
I'm
can't.
good.
I just
Yeah,
can't.
I just can't.
Yeah.
Can't fucking do what? What can't you do?
Yeah.
And that's wild to me because I don't think I've ever shut my door on somebody because of what they believe. Now, if they are truly just a piece of shit, I will cut all ties. But at the end of the day, I don't care what you believe in. I don't care how you live your life for the most part. If you are one thing or another and want to dress a certain way, fucking do you, man. It doesn't affect my life any.
That's right.
Right? Like I grew up a Catholic and now I'm a Jew. What's happening right now is one of the strangest things because I lived in an area in Minneapolis that was primarily a Jewish population. And what is happening in the world now, I've never seen this much anti-Semitism in 44 years. And I don't really know what's going on. I don't really understand the narrative that's happening around the world right now against 0.2% of the population, which is the smallest, by the way, just in case nobody else knew that. It's really weird. It's profound, actually, what's going on right now. And we stopped teaching the history of it, of everything, of everybody.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. We were just when I was at work earlier today. One of my coworkers was printing out. She was printing out pictures of like Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King and other civil rights leaders from the civil rights era, civil rights movement.
Yeah.
And I was like, so what's up with that? Like, it's no big deal, but I don't like. We work at a Harley shop, so like, are we having Martin Luther King Day at Harley?
Is it just because we have a color printer here? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, and she was like, no, I was printing them to take home to help my daughter with some deal. She's like, they're not teaching our kids about who Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. They're not teaching our kids about who these people are.
That was just history in school back in the day.
Yeah. And I was like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I said, nothing? She's like, no. She said, my daughter's in 9th grade and has no idea who Rosa Parks is and what she gave up the seat or why she didn't give up the seat on the bus.
Right. And the significance behind it.
And she doesn't understand why Martin Luther King was assassinated and like why he marched through Montgomery, Alabama.
It's weird.
And I was like, are you serious?
Well, they don't teach them about World War II history.
Yeah.
They don't teach them about the Holocaust. It is, and we had this conversation the other day, and I think what challenges me the most is I understand the idea of taking down these statues across the country. I get the premise, but it just doesn't land well the way they explain it. It's, we're removing the hate.
No, you're not.
You're not.
You're magnifying it,
Exactly.
in my opinion.
If you just don't touch things, and when you look upon those things, you gaze upon those things, right or wrong, it's a moment to sit down and reflect and learn, why is this person a statue now? Why is this? What did this person do? And what did they lead? And again, they don't want any positive statues out there. They don't want any of the U.S. history out there. And my son's social studies teacher said during one of the curriculum days that we need to reckon with our past. I don't need to reckon with shit. I know my past. I know I was taught our past. I know the bad things that happened. I know the good things that happened. You're not teaching either side of that.
Yeah, and this teacher is probably what, 24 years old? The hell do they know?
Probably early 30s.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
And why is that acceptable to like school boards and administrators? Isn't the whole point of teaching history so that we don't repeat the things?
That is the point of history.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right.
It's that.
So why would we not? We don't want to repeat the bad things.
Because it hurts people's hearts.
So what?
It's scary.
Yeah.
Listen, I can do this all day long, right? Like I would love to go to any school board meeting and say, why aren't you teaching our kids what they actually need to know?
Well, they're just going to shut the mic off on you.
They'll just shut the mic off. Right.
Yeah.
And, that is, I think, ultimately the reason why we have the problems that we have today. It's people are just shutting the mic off on just listening to one another.
Do you believe that there is an overwhelming amount of people around us that are just like willfully ignorant on the things that are going on around them? Just are happy, like just cool with the whole ignorance is bliss narrative?
I think so.
And that to me is wild. And in my opinion, willful ignorance of things going on around us is just as bad as being the problem.
Right. In Seattle, we have the issue where, we don't put people in jail for breaking the law, for killing people, for stealing somebody's car, carjacking somebody, for doing whatever, underage children having guns in their cars and that they stole from somebody. And I was not a good kid growing up. I did a lot of stupid things, but
did you ever get arrested?
100%.
For stealing guns?
No. Nothing stupid like that. I mean, I did some dumb things. Like I got a DUI twice.
Okay.
Under the age of 21. I never quote unquote, broke the law in those terms.
You never hurt anybody?
No.
Never damaged or burglarized anybody?
No.
I mean, you never destroyed property?
I mean,
and like,
well, there was that one time, but again,
but you didn't set anybody's shit on fire, did you?
Not their home. maybe some Christmas ornaments at one time, and it just was like joke that didn't go well, didn't land well.
I'm trying to build you a strong narrative, bro.
But what I will say is that I learned from my mistakes.
Yeah.
I got to do some, time in a juvenile detention center for a couple of days, and
How was that?
it was terrifying. It was, I'm not a big dude. Well, now I am, but I wasn't at the time.
Yeah.
It was a terrifying situation. But my thing is, in Seattle, there's judges now that are like, well, if we put them in the system, they're never going to get out. So I'm going to release them today on their own accord. I'll put them on home monitoring. Mm-hmm. And then in like a week, they do something worse. And then they do the same thing. It's like they're repeating the same narrative in Seattle, and we keep having these problems. And kids nowadays don't actually have to pay for what they've done.
They don't have to be accountable.
There's no accountability for these kids.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying beat your kids, but it's getting to a point where it's like, where do we draw the line? When is enough enough?
Well, if it's true what they say that all of these types of things are cyclical, we should be coming back to the times where you send your kid out to get a switch and you whoop their ass for doing things like stealing guns from the neighbor.
Well, we saw this year. The pendulum has swung the other way, right? That it is, whether I agree with it or I don't agree with it, the pendulum is swinging the other way. We've been so far for so long, and the state of the world, we can't be allowed to continue down the path that we're going down.
No, we can't.
And I'm not saying that the next 4 years are going to be better than the last 4 years. I think there's problems and there's extremes on both sides, and it's the extremes that terrify me. It's the rhetoric that I'm hearing on both sides that are so terrifying that, I'm far from like, oh, well, I'm going to move to another country. That's not how you fix the problem.
Yeah.
It is. We just need to start pulling our children away from the thing that's poisoning the most, which is the social media, which we've done with my son. It's all of the things that they're watching and consuming, and they call it brain rot. The things that are rotting their brains and making them think that these actions are okay because you get laughs online. It's wild to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and some of the things that they find funny
Are not funny.
Yeah.
If
I was the like we were talking the other day.
Yeah.
If I was the guy in Home Depot and someone put some PVC piping up to my ear and give the
Hiya.
Yeah,
Whatever the fuck
I'm gonna
it is.
shove it up your ass.
Oh, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah. I might go to jail.
I would probably go to jail.
And that's what is so frustrating, I think, especially to older people, older than us,
Yeah.
is you're going to disrespect me, and then I'm going to tell you that you disrespected me, and I'm going to teach you what it means to be respectful, and I'm going to fucking suffer the consequences.
Right. Well, it was interesting. So when the whole Palestine movement started popping off, especially in the Seattle area, my son and I were in downtown Seattle, just like a father-son date day, right? Like we were just out. We went to go eat, and we were shopping at Pike's Place Market, and there was like a huge police presence, and I didn't really understand what was going on. And then you heard it. You heard the march, the Free Palestine March. And my son at the time was 13, and he's 14 now, and as they started moving closer, I went on just safeguard mode. And I was like, if they get close, if somebody gets in my face, I'm going to jail today, because I will kill one of these people, especially if they start attacking us or my son, or he sees it and is affected by it. And he was like, Dad, you're not going to jail today. Let's just because in Pike's Place they have a basement. He was like, let's just go over here. Let's go downstairs. Let's go to the record store. Let's do this. Like, he guided me through my own anger of wanting to lash out at the hate that was going on outside. And we went through the whole thing. They started passing us. We walked out. There's some cops there. And I was like, hey, I'm just trying to get to my car. It's right there. He was like, all right, man. They're about a block down. And I told him that I was prior service. I did the whole thing. I was like, I am not comfortable with this. And I'm afraid of their safety, not my own. And he was like, yep, just walk up there. And I was like, this is bullshit. And he was like, you are not wrong, sir.
Yeah.
Because they
What
couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, they guided me to my car. I got in, I drove away. But I mean, that was a moment where my son was like, you're going to be all right. This is normal now.
That's pretty cool, man.
It is pretty cool.
That he had that thought.
You mean he was level-headed? More than a 44-year-old man?
Yeah, but here's the thing, man. I think like that's the condition of not, I'm not going to say everyone, but I think that's just the condition, the veteran condition, right? Like you see wrongdoing, you see something that's wrong that you disagree with, that's hateful, that has the potential to really like destroy things that have been worked hard for, that have been created, that are equitable, and you were in a space that's meant for everybody, and here you are fucking up my day.
Right.
And all these other people.
It's the same thing when we watched the George Floyd stuff here. I was in tears watching a city that I truly love, Minneapolis as a city and the culture behind it. My dad was in the music business, so like uptown and South Minneapolis, like North Minneapolis, like that's part of my life. And to watch it being burned down, like it, and I understand the idea behind what happened. It was just executed in the wrong way. Like it is no longer get out and protest and let people hear your voice. It's let's just destroy things that have been standing for like 75 plus years in some of those areas, right?
Yeah.
Like South Minneapolis especially. There's a lot of history there.
I still haven't recovered.
No, I drove through there one of the last times we were home, and
Did you get out?
God no.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it was wild, dude. We were there. Stu and I were there. We were working. We were bounty hunting still at the time.
Yeah.
And the night that the third precinct burned, we were like 8 blocks away doing surveillance looking for a dude. And we had 3 really good friends that were in the building.
Oh, wow.
And we had scanners and things and other tools.
Sure.
We probably,
You were armed and safe and all the things.
Yeah, but I mean, like for communications tools and listening stuff, we probably had some things that maybe we shouldn't have.
I don't know what those things are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, and then we heard our really good friend Paul, who was he was the most senior guy in the precinct.
Yeah.
And he got on the radio and he started calling for help. And it makes me emotional. And they were like, you guys gotta leave. There was no help coming. And there were cops everywhere just waiting to fucking go in and secure their house. And he got on it and he goes, we need help. Vacate. They told him just to vacate, evacuate the building. You don't understand. Like there's no evacuation
Right.
for a completely surrounded building engulfed in flames. And at one point when we talked to him after, he was like, I was 5 seconds away from telling every cop in that building to they had submunitions, like rubber bullets, to try to keep people back. He's like, we were going to switch to live ammo.
Well, and that's the thing. Like,
and they should have, in my opinion.
Evacuate the building. You don't evacuate a police station. There's firearms. There's rounds. There's ammunition. There's all of these things. There's body armor. You don't leave that for the general public to take. Because now there's a bigger problem.
Yes. And more than that, bro, you do not give up your home.
Right.
We don't give up ground. We don't give up our home. When we were in Iraq, bro, if they would have got on some effing loudspeaker, came door to door and were like, hey, at 23:30 tonight, we're giving up the base to
No, we're not.
to the insurgency.
Where are we supposed to go?
Yeah. Like, what? What do you mean?
Oh, wait, we did do that. We didn't do that, but we did that eventually.
Eventually, yes.
Right.
But it's like we're not going to just give up.
It is
Fly some people in here.
It is weird. Where was the National Guard? And I don't, because I was well out of the loop, and I think I
At
talked
that
to a
point, they
mutual
weren't there yet.
They weren't there yet.
It was like,
Were you
Well-
were you still in? Because I think Tim had to respond to something.
yeah.
A
No, I don't
friend
think
of
I
ours.
was. Well, I got out in February of 21.
Okay.
So yeah, was I? When did George Floyd happen? I don't
I
know.
don't know. I can't use this computer.
Either way, I wasn't.
You weren't activated to do anything.
No,
No.
but it was nuts,
It was
man.
chaos.
And then just like the following weeks, and it wasn't long after that, we had caught a dude over on the north side who was wanted for guns and trafficking of meth or whatever else, some drug possession thing.
Good dude.
And we brought him to Hennepin County Jail, turned him over to the jail deputy. And by the time we got our copies of the paperwork and all that jazz and got back out to the truck, you put all your shit back on and your guns back on because you
Right.
can't bring it in
them
there.
inside. Yep.
The dude was at the light rail station,
So they let him out.
sign and release warrant. And they were giving you like a $75 Visa gift card or something, or Twins tickets or something. They were giving these people, if you sign here and promise to come to court on your day, we'll give you this gift card or Twins
a minute.
tickets.
So back in the day, when I did get my DUI, do you know what they gave me when I walked out?
What?
A token to take a bus home. They gave me a bus token. That was it. My shit and a bus token. Like I spent the night.
That was nice.
That's all I needed, right? I mean, I didn't use the bus token. I had somebody come down and pick me up. But
Yeah.
that's all you should get. You just broke the law. And
You shouldn't
I
even
did-
get a bus token.
Sure, but I mean, for the destitute, which I wasn't, I was just a dumb kid that, had too much to drink and got
Yeah.
pulled over at a White Castle. I didn't get pulled over. I was
White
parked at a
Castle's good, though.
So,
Like that.
But yeah, like I spent my night and they were like, here's your court date. You're going to do the thing. You lose your license. I think I lost my license for like 60 days. That was it. And I had to pay like a $500 fine. And it wasn't on my driving record.
Perfect.
Right. So the bus token, I was like, great.
That's an added benefit. The fact that it's not on your driving record
Right.
was the best gift they could have given you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it is that, and that is, therein lies the problem with everything that's going on. I would say primarily with these blue states, it's, well, they'll be back for court, we think.
Yeah. No.
Motherfuckers aren't coming back.
No, they won't.
That's why you just brought them there.
Yeah. 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 And so, like, that was the day when we got back in the truck and we looked at each other and we were like, let's go home, dude. And then we caught one more lady probably later that week or the next week. And that was it. We were done.
Yeah.
Because not only that, but then we were kicking down doors over north or in Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park, and in Rochester, all over the state for half the money. We kicked in the door in North Minneapolis, and him and I go in the front and the back at the same time, and we didn't know that they were having like some party in there. And all of a sudden,
whoopsie.
you end up in the middle of this party, and all these boys
Over
got
north.
guns, and there's him and I. And there's like 15 people in there. And when you go in, you see at least 8 guns, and everyone else has one.
Right. How'd that end?
Oh, dude came with us.
Wow.
He was like, and he's like, y'all got the balls to kick in these doors? I'll go with y'all.
Oh, there you go.
And he came with us.
No questions asked. Like,
Well, we had to prove to him that
sure,
we had the
sure. Here's the warrant for your arrest.
Yeah. And he knew.
Yeah.
He's like, y'all from so and so bail bond company? Yeah, man. He's like, yeah, I know. And that's the thing. Like, people usually knew, and they were like, yeah, I know. I'd have messed up. I gotta go sit down. And it wasn't even really that big of a deal. It was like a DWI, so he probably got out right away.
I'm sure, right?
You
Like
know.
those are, and first of all, anybody, can I just speak to the audience? If
Absolutely.
you get a DWI, just fucking spend the night. What are you doing? Spend the night, sober up, go to court the next day. If you get busted on a Saturday or a Friday night, you're going to be there till Monday morning. Go to court. Don't bail yourself out. That's dumb. Have that shitty bologna sandwich.
You'll enjoy it.
You'll enjoy it because that Monday, guess what? Now you don't owe $30,000 or whatever it is. You get to go home and go, woof, I messed up.
I'm a dummy.
I'm a dummy.
Yeah.
That's so dumb. I don't get it, man.
But we were both there. Thank God I never got a D-dub. I should have.
Oh, plenty of times.
I certainly should have. There's many nights I did this thing.
I think I was in the car many a nights with you.
You may have. Another thing we should discuss quickly for full clarity. When we came home from Iraq and found ourselves lost in bottles,
A lot of bottles.
a lot of them,
Yeah.
and a lot of other things we won't discuss on this show. It was me and this guy, and we did a lot of damage to our livers,
Yeah. Our psyche,
our psyche,
relationships.
and sometimes relationships for sure, and sometimes even each other. There was a couple of those.
Yeah. You and I got kicked out of a bar for fighting one night.
Yeah,
When I slapped you and then you pushed me.
yeah, and you hit your head on the foot rail.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the night you puked in your car, in your orange car.
No, outside the door. I never puked in the car. But
Oh, well.
right outside the door.
It was gross.
It was gross.
So I say all that just to say, like, we're flawed, and
Heavily.
we were very flawed back then. But here we are.
Yeah.
We made it.
And, I just talked about it on our show, we're still losing 22 or more veterans a day.
Yeah.
And, it's tough because every time I hop on Facebook, because I have to monitor our social media for the podcast and everything else, is you always, like you see another story, you see somebody else that or that you have served with at one time. Maybe you're not friends now, but it still affects me. And all I can say is, like, just for the love of God, go get help. Like, it is, I was at the VA every single day for 10 years. I did this thing called mindful meditation. Mm-hmm. Nobody talked in the room. It was fantastic. So the last thing I want to do is hear other people's problems that compound mine, which is why we were in the bottle so much, because we compounded our own problems with each other. But
It was great.
it was fun for while it lasted. This is who you are now, and that's what mindful meditation, like, this is part of you. This is never going to go away. And I mentioned this on our show that there are still days where there's like a little voice in the back of your head, like the bad guy voice every now and again, or you assumed is the bad guy, the one that helps you make terrible decisions. Mm-hmm. You just have to figure how to mute that and just continue to, like, look at the rest of the world and say, I'm not that bad. Everything is all right. And I'm surrounded by people that love me, I think. Right? And if you feel like you're not, like, find those people. They're around.
Yeah, your people are not ever far away.
Yeah.
Whoever they may be. And I think that's why there's also such value in, like, these dogs and, I don't know, therapy pets. I know people have snakes and whatever it is that brings you comfort.
But
It is weird. But hey, man, if it brings
I got
you
a dog.
comfort.
Right? He doesn't look like a normal dog. He's got weird little legs and a big ass head and a big body. He's a mini Bernedoodle. But I'll tell you, man, he is, at the end of a day, a stressful day at work. And I work at a big tech company, and it's busy all the time. That, like, big release at the end of the day is just hanging out with my dog.
Yeah.
Like, you feel there's something about them. Like, they know when you're not feeling well.
Absolutely.
And just find an outlet that's not
Destructive.
booze, drugs. Just find a different outlet.
Yeah.
If you feel unsafe with yourself, don't have a gun. I don't have guns. For that reason, exactly.
Yeah, man. It's I did a show, the Richard Leonard show, and I talked about this very topic. The Department of Defense just started studying the effects on soldiers' brains of soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen, and Coast Guard who have MOSs that require them to be in and around highly concussive things like field artillery, tankers, mortarmen, heavy weapons platoons, and things like that. And so, and me too. Like I got frustrated by it. I got pissed off at myself as well because I thought, for all these years we've been told 22 veterans a day are killing themselves.
Right.
And we're spending billions and billions of dollars to fight off this problem. They say.
They say.
And nobody's ever thought.
All the other things could be bad too.
Nobody's ever thought that the dudes who are standing next to these 155 howitzers
Going off.
when they go off, and like if
you've ever seen it, they
Yeah.
kick back quite a way. Like they might be in the ground, but they still kick back quite a bit.
Oh yeah, and I was describing it right, like the dudes standing around. If their uniforms weren't zipped on, it'd fly right off their bodies, and like the dirt and the cloud and like the concussive the waves that come off these things. And so we've talked for all these years about IEDs and better helmets for falls and CTE and football players and better helmets for lacrosse players and all these things. We've never thought about all the dudes who are like mortarmen, thump, thump, thump for hours on end. The things are just fucking going off.
So it's interesting that you say that because I'm mostly deaf in my right ear. And it was only because I was a range NCO at one time and I bent down to pick something up. And the red flag was up, and there were new recruits, and there was a young lady behind a 50 cal, and as I bent down, she butterflied it.
Just single shot or?
I mean, it just...
Okay.
And it scared her because she had charged the weapon, she wasn't really paying attention, but my head was right next to it. And still to this day, like that heavy ringing, I mean, it felt like my ear was bleeding for about a week.
Yeah.
It takes a toll. I've been on tank lines because I've supported, the tank battalions here in Minnesota. Like it's a lot of fucking noise.
Yes.
And on top of all the other stupid shit that we go through.
And so, like, think about back to those times, right? Like when you're like you're the maintenance team on a tank range,
right?
Like you might throw a Kevlar on, but you're like in a t-shirt and your BDU pants and boots because it's hot as balls outside,
right?
And you're just kind of running from tank to tank to make sure things are working, and whoom over here and then over here, and then this guy's not firing because the shit's not working.
But also, all of the hydraulic fluid that is in them is like highly carcinogenic.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to wear like these suits and rubber gloves.
Nah.
Never happened.
No.
Never.
It's
happened,
hot,
bro.
man.
And I'm 6'4". Do you know what I don't fit in? A tank turret.
Yeah, bro. I was a Bradley
out.
gunner.
Right, you were a Bradley gunner.
Yeah.
When I sat in a turret in a Bradley, it was like, I don't fit. How the fuck does Richard fit in this thing?
You know what happened? I did one gunnery.
You did really well.
I shot 998. I went to my platoon sergeant and said, I'm done. Done with the Bradley. I'm going back to the straight leg platoon. He goes, what are you talking about? Retiring on top. You only go down from here, man.
I'm almost perfect. I'm out.
Yep, done.
Yep. Yeah.
Hanging my hat on it, because then I can wear it on my,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the last time I hit the rifle range, I hit 39 out of 40. And I was like, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm not qualifying ever again.
Never
I'm good.
again. I hit 40 out of 40 once, but the thing didn't flop down. But it was the 50, and I saw it go through it, and it just didn't knock it down. I was like, whatever. I know what I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put the expert on anyway.
Boop.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I think that it's really something that everybody that I talk to, that are veterans, whether they're proud of their service or not, through the course of conversation, it's inevitable that they always have something or things that are very prevalent in their lives from their service.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the older guys, and I haven't talked to many women. For some reason, the women that I've asked aren't really comfortable yet. You get a lot of, well, I'll think about it. And that's cool. It's all right. No big deal.
Sure.
The older guys are usually the ones that are like, oh, yeah, no problem. You want me to talk about, what do you want me to talk about? Well, whatever you're comfortable
you
with.
talk about.
Yeah, well, yeah, you got 8 hours? Yeah, I suppose. I mean, but I say all that to say, like, I don't know that we always understand how ingrained and imprinted we became through the process of our career, no matter how short or how long it was.
I miss it every day.
You do?
I do.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised to hear you say that.
I know. It's weird. I miss it every day. I mean, I'm glad I'm not in, but I still miss it every single day. I found comfort in knowing what my routine was. And I think you mentioned this when you had a conversation with your dad, was when you're deployed, it's very easy for us.
Yes.
Because you just hit the go button, right? It's play. And at night you hit stop. And then in the morning you hit play. And it's a routine that you develop over time, and it just felt very normal. And I think that's one of the reasons that I had such a hard time coming home. Yes, there were things that, you see and you experience. That wasn't the hard part for me. The hard part was just being home and being around people.
I agree 1,000%.
Because I think people are fucking idiots. And I'm not saying there's not fucking idiots in the military. I was one of them. But I had a purpose every single day, and I knew what I had to do. Where there are days I wake up, I'm like, what do I do? Other than, like, get my son to school and go to work and do my job and whatever. But there are days, like down days, where I feel like I don't have anything to do. Mm-hmm. And that, it's a little depressing, but more so it is just like, I could be doing something constructive with my time. But when you're in the service, it's just Monday through Sunday, right?
Structure, yeah.
It's a structured day.
What do you find?
I was also in better shape.
What do you find that you do when you have what do you settle on? Where do you go? What do you do?
I tinker with things. I build computers, play computer games. I have the podcast now, which is a huge, that was one of the things that really was, okay, now I have a different hobby that I have to focus more time on. It's just a second job. You probably know that well. So there's that. And, on the weekends when it's lacrosse season, I have lacrosse games. And as much as I complain about it, 3 days of standing out in the rain or whatever it is,
it's better than being bored.
It's better than sitting at home doing nothing, right? I'm supporting my son. I'm supporting the team. I'm supporting the club. And that's a good feeling. But something's missing. And I know every single day something's missing. And that something is I spent so many years trying to focus on helping veterans get better. And I've stopped doing that to an extent because it's exhausting. Veterans aren't exhausting. The red tape is exhausting. Trying to get people to help veterans that aren't veterans is really, really difficult. And you and I tried to start our own program here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I stood in front of, the CEO of Easter Seals and was like, we have a great idea. We built the business plan. And the only thing they said was, this sounds good, but it's not a proven concept. If you can prove that it works, It's like, yeah, well, that's why we're here asking you for money
Yeah.
to support us on this.
We need somebody to give us a shot.
Right. And it was like, thank you, and close the door on us.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody actually wants to help.
Yeah, and so it's really funny that you say that, because that's exactly the narrative that came up in this group that is 3 Clicks Media and is Vettertainment, now our nonprofit. And we are being very, what's a good word? We are being very careful about the steps that we take to build the things that we are doing for veterans. So like our housing initiative, we're doing it very carefully and very thoughtfully, and doing it in a way where we don't need to go to the government to ask them for nothing, because now you're not beholden to them.
Right.
So the key is that it's all about money, in my opinion.
It's all about money.
Yep. And so if we can build something that people love, that is helpful, and do it thoughtfully in stages, and slowly bring a little bit of money here and there by providing cool services or cool events or whatever the case may be, then we're going to get to that goal, and we're not going to have to listen to anybody. We're going to do it our way.
Right.
We're going to create it the way we want. And at some point in the future, hopefully the more near future, we are going to have a place where veterans can be. And if you want to come and watch a game, cool. You need help? Cool. You need financial literacy? Cool. You know,
Need an education outside of the military? Great.
yeah.
Wounded Warrior Project, stop sending me shit. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. They're the worst.
They're the worst.
Yep.
They are the worst. They've done one good thing for me, and that was a resume interview class that I went to with them. Outside of that, I don't want your fucking magnets. I don't want any of that bullshit, cheap shit that you send to my house. Stop. You
Yeah.
help 4% of the fucking people that come through your program.
Yep. Yeah. And I've been in the room when the ex-CEO of the place told the veteran, I can't talk to you, I need to get to dinner. And that was the time in which I was done with Wounded Warrior Project.
Yeah. Well, I also went and looked at their financials and saw how much is going to pay them and how much is actually going to the veterans. Fuck you, Wounded Warrior Project.
Yeah,
I don't give a shit.
That's an easy one.
That's There are some great ones out there, though. I think like Teed Up for the Troops is a really, really good program.
Tunnels to Towers does great work, I think.
Yeah, there's one in Seattle called the Seattle Stand Down that I've volunteered at a few times, where, you know, homeless veterans and their families, or just veterans that have fallen on hard times, can come and get services, whether it's education, a haircut, new clothes, dental care, because they can't. What a lot of people don't understand is like, well, you served in the military, why don't you just go to the VA? That's not how it works.
Well, it does.
Well,
it does work, but it doesn't work for many people.
right. And you have to, like, you really have to stick it to the VA and say, we're going down this path right now. Let's go.
Well, and I'll say this. I've had some really good care and experiences at the VA. But as you know, because you brought me, the VA almost killed me
It's fair.
when I had that surgery. But I don't think that, like, the frontline, boots on ground staff are horrible. Like, a lot of those people, at least recently in the last 3 to 4 years, they've all been great to me.
They've gotten better.
Yeah.
I'll give it, like, when we got home, it was dog shit.
Yes.
Because you brought me my first time,
yeah.
and that was a trip. But when we got home, and then I moved to Michigan for a while, came back home, they were just giving me painkillers.
Yeah.
They weren't doing anything. It was like, here, take these, take these, take these. Oh, you have that? Oh, take this. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get my disability status until I moved to Washington. and I'm 62% disabled. I don't know where you get 2%, but sure. It was like pulling teeth just to get that. And now we have to go in and do the burn pit thing. I just don't have the time, right? Like, we were all close enough to it. We should probably go in and do the thing. We just don't have the time. And it's like a full day. It's not just show up and say, hey, I'm here for my appointment. No, it is like, all right, sit there for the next...
It's a lot of tests.
4 hours.
The application itself
is super long.
Is super long. And furthermore, I think I started it 4 times and then the thing like timed out.
Yeah. And they don't have RRPs listed on there either. The guys that were burning their shit every single day. Mm-hmm. So if you're the base that you were assigned to, if it didn't have a burn pit, which they all did, but it was like, I know ours had a huge one. But if you were at RRPs, you can't list it because it's not on their list. It has to be like it's a drop down. Like, oh, I was in Talil. Great, we know there was one there. Great, we know there was guys that have died because they worked on those burn pits. Mm-hmm. You qualify because you were in the vicinity of one. I didn't work at one. I was in the vicinity. I just don't have the time because it's a lengthy fucking document of answering questions. I don't need it that bad.
Yeah, it is. It's cumbersome. I would tell you though, at some point you should do it, not for the money, but for later on, if you ever need the care for whatever reason, you probably 100%. Will be fine. In as far as like needing care, I mean, you work hard, you probably will be okay for medical insurance and all that stuff later in your life. But in the event you're not, I just do it some point. Just fucking do it.
I'm registered. I just haven't gone in to do all the other tests. Yeah,
I get it. So just do it. If I got to come out there and bring you.
Did you go in and do all of the battery of tests?
Yeah.
Oh, you did? That's a day.
It was like 3.5 hours. Yeah.
That is a full day of work.
Yes. Yeah. It's not short. It's not short. Okay. Well, man. Lots there, but we could probably go on for another 2 hours.
Yeah. But that is the beauty of a podcast, right?
What's that?
You could just go on and on and on.
Yeah.
And I get that complaint about ours. Like, oh, God, your podcast is so long. I'm not asking you to watch it, listen to it all in one fell swoop. Listen to it in your car, go to work, get out, go inside, you work your day, you hop back in, boom, we're right back on, baby.
Yeah, or you chop them up or whatever. Yeah,
I'm not chopping them up. They're too damn funny.
Well, what else you got then? What else you got? You got anything else you want to share?
Do I want to share anything? I'm going to tell you, man.
Well, okay, what else?
I love the state of Minnesota in small chunks, but it's so fucking cold here right now that I'm pretty sure my dick tried to hide inside my butthole to stay warm today. It's really fucking cold here. It's not that cold in Washington. It's miserable outside. I don't know how you continue to stay here.
What temperature? What's the temperature? It's only like 32 degrees.
No,
bro.
It's got to be colder than that. It's 12, bro.
Oh, well, it's still above zero.
Ugh.
You lived here almost all of your life.
That's true. That's true. I hated it then. I hate it now. No, I don't have a lot. It's thanks for having me on the show. I mean, this is cool. We are very like my show. We don't talk about politics. We very rarely talk about moments of clarity in tough times, or even talk about difficult situations. We're very music focused and things like that. This is for anybody because your audience is veterans and everything else. Find that outlet. I think it's really important to leave anybody with if they listen to your show. Find an outlet. Find somebody to talk to. This is cathartic. It's good for you. You get rid of it, and the more you hold on to it, the darker things get. So just find somebody that you can talk to. Not at a VFW, by the way. It's the worst place to do it because the beers are 75 cents. So just
they are cheap.
Don't do it.
I think the one here you get 18-ounce hams for $2.
Wow.
And that's like unheard of. Beer for $2 anymore is unheard of.
Well, also, you have liquor stores that close at 7, so where else are you supposed to get a drink?
They close at 7 now?
I don't know. Like, we buy liquor in our grocery store, so it's very strange that I have to go to a liquor store to buy things.
Yeah. Well, welcome. In that respect,
Welcome back.
yeah, in that respect, Minnesota is a lot bluer than Seattle, than Washington.
It is. It is.
It's nuts. But yeah, thank you, man, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you making the time. I appreciate you coming out, and I think that these stories and these conversations are super important because. And I've said it on the show many times, there is a massive gap in the way that guys and gals like you and I and the general populace, there's a massive gap in the way we understand each other.
Yeah.
There's a massive gap in the way that we see life and we see the world and navigate the world. And quite frankly, I think that we are going to witness in 2025 some pretty tough things, and I don't know, and we already have.
It's already started.
Yeah, it's already started, and at the time of this being taped, it's January 2nd. We are taping this, and so we've already had the bombing at the Trump Hotel, the thing in New Orleans, the guy drove through,
Shooting in New York.
shooting in New York. And then earlier today, a plane flew into a warehouse somewhere. And these are the types of things, and I know we don't want to talk politics, but these are the types of things that people in general have been saying that are going to start happening.
Do you know what I said the first year I was back? It is only a matter of time when we start seeing IEDs on the highways in the United States.
I agree.
And are they going to be 155 rounds? No. And listen, I was a maintenance guy. I wasn't on convoys until I did one convoy, and it was fucking terrifying. That's a story for another day.
Yeah, we'll do that story next time.
I didn't do so well. Let's just put it that way. I wasn't crying, but I was fucking terrified.
You guys will love this.
And I can call in and do that. We have a pretty nice setup in Washington. But everybody that did serve overseas went through the training. Mm-hmm. We all know what to look for. We all know what to identify. We were all shown the videos of people being beheaded to say, if you are in this situation, make sure you save a round for yourself. Which is a whole nother thing. It's going to happen here. It's happening here.
Yeah.
And the last two were trained by our government. And one of the individuals that drove through New Orleans, the reason that they didn't do anything and stop this person is because they thought it was culturally insensitive. Go fuck yourself. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree. 1,000%.
It's not culturally insensitive when somebody wants to kill American citizens. It's just not.
Yeah.
Especially when they're outspoken about it. We are going to see it. We are going to start seeing this more. It's going to ramp up in 2025. Everything that's going on in Gaza, in the Middle East, this is not going to stop now. It's just going to increase. And with whether it's terrifying to some or not, the rhetoric that's going on with our current or the new administration about just taking people out of the country, people are going to fight back one way or another. And we all know how people do it. They do it with violence. And it's not going to be good. For every single veteran that knows how to pick up a rifle and can aim down the iron sights, you don't need all the other bullshit. I can hit 200 yards on iron sights. Mm-hmm. Protect your family and protect your neighbors.
Yeah.
And just stay vigilant over the next 4 years. Because it's going to get bad.
Yeah, I think that we're going to stop attending massive events for a little while.
Yeah.
And you're right, 1,000%. And I don't think that the general populace is ready.
No.
I don't know that, because we talk about it not necessarily on the show, but just as a culture, right? As veterans, as a culture, we talk about it all the time. How snowflakes, you could put in parentheses, just don't really understand what war is. Hell.
It's terrible.
There are things that the human mind can't fathom and probably shouldn't be exposed to. And how do you come back from that? And you will forever be changed. And there are some people out there that also say this whole idea that we fight war on foreign soil, so we don't do it here, is all bullshit and it's stupid and blah blah blah. And we're gonna find out, and we already are.
Yeah, we already fucked around.
But
Now
we're
we're
gonna
finding
find out a whole lot more intensely why we don't want to fight war at home, because I believe that it may get worse, and when and if it does, it's gonna get bloody. It's gonna be gnarly as hell. And people just aren't ready. They're not going to be able to handle it, and it's going to be. I hope that I'm wrong.
100%, and just stop the divisions, man. Like, I don't. This is not like hippie again. It's like sounds hippy dippy. Like, stop the divisions. Look at your neighbor. Who gives a shit what they believe in, and just find something that you have something in common with them. I don't know whether make it something stupid. Wow, you're cutting your grass really great. Don't like what you believe in, but your yard looks nice.
Yeah,
whatever it is.
But you can disagree, but you can come to an agreement that if this bullshit comes to our street,
I'm putting sandbags on one end of the road, and I'm going to go get some firearms, and I'm going to get ready.
Well, and we're going to be back to back, and we're
100%.
defending our house together.
Yeah.
So you vote for who you want to. I'll vote for who I want to.
But I'm not letting somebody
fuck with your home. You're not letting them. And right. And hopefully that's the way that things go around this country. Although I don't know in some places.
Some places.
If that's going to happen.
We were stationed in Mississippi. That's the most racist place I've ever been to in my entire life.
Yeah, and they move slow.
Slow. Big Mama can't serve fast enough.
I often tell that story of, I think her name was Doris, the lady that made in our chow hall. She made the eggs and omelets to order.
The big lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. I asked her one day, man, why do people move so slow? She said, honey, it's hot outside, and we don't move any faster than this, or any faster than we have to. I was like, wait, but all right.
Well, and then it was common to hear, we just had a hurricane here.
Oh, yeah, that was another one. Yeah.
Because Katrina had just come through. And so, like, she was cleaning off the grill. And I was waiting for her to make pancakes because my fat ass wanted pancakes, not eggs. And I was like, hey, Big Mama, we got formation. She's like, we'll get to it.
Yep.
She's like, y'all know we just had a hurricane.
We had to have gone to the same chow hall. She was a big lady.
Yeah, she was mighty.
Tons of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was very sweet.
Sweetheart.
Though. Oh, yeah.
But she moved at her pace.
She made great biscuits.
She made great everything.
Yeah.
But she moved at her pace.
Yeah.
That was the best meal, and the grenade burgers right down the street.
Oh,
made the chili pies.
Yeah. Yeah. It was almost worth doing push-ups in formation to eat what she was making.
Yeah. The Frito pie. That's what it was. It was Frito pies.
Yeah, or you put chili.
Yeah,
it's like a walking
chili.
taco.
Yeah. In a bag of chips. So unhealthy.
Yeah, well, we burned it off on downrange. Okay, so one of the things we like to do here, Dan, and maybe you've already done it already and don't want to participate, but we like to do final thoughts. Ooh. And so I'd like to give you 30 seconds to a minute to give the audience your final thoughts on today's conversation. So the floor is yours. Tell us where and when we can find new episodes of Dirty Dad's podcast, on what platforms.
Oh, shit. Now you're going to make me look it up.
And when. Because we need to have all that.
Yeah, so all of our stuff is on the major streaming platforms. So we are on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on iHeartRadio, we're on Amazon Music. I don't know if anybody uses it, but we are on there. We are on like some other like random podcast things. On Instagram, it's dirty_dads_podcasts. And then Facebook, it's just Dirty Dads. And then we have dirtydadspodcast.com. So definitely, hop on. We're, like I said, we don't do political stuff. It's three guys just talking about music and movies and making jokes about the world. And making fun of ourselves. So it's a really good time. 30 seconds, I'm going to go back to it, man. Like, we really have to find the time to get to know each other. And that you and I even ended up being friends together was the oil pan incident, and then he picked me up by my dick from behind when he got back from a convoy once. And he was like, I made it back, but we got blown up. And he picked me up by the crotch from behind my...
I don't remember that.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, I think it was like your first IED hit, and you came back, and you were all shook, and you came up behind me. I didn't know you were there, and everybody else was just kind of chuckling, and you grabbed me by the crotch from behind and picked me up. Yeah. Thanks for that, Rich.
You learn lots of things here at Disgruntled.
So,
holy shit. Sorry, bro.
Yeah, find your friends, find your family, and your friends of the family that you choose, right? So just make sure you surround yourself by good people.
Right on, man.
Smile every day, baby, because life is good.
Life is good.
Yeah.
So there you have it. That is my good buddy Dan. We were ramp ceremony partners. Apparently, I picked him up by his penis, and
No, it was balls more than shaft.
okay, by the balls. Yeah. He taught me how to change oil in a combat zone. And so, like we talk about all the time, these are the stories of the regular guys, the guys that join the military, not necessarily the tip of the spear, but we yet have good stories to tell. And so these are the stories that we look to collect and catalog and put out for everybody to see and just understand and realize that there's a lot of stuff that happens inside these organizations we call the United States military. And they're not always glorious. They're not always fun. They're not always pretty. They're not always gruesome and scary and horrible either. But we're all just kind of regular people, both in the service and out. So until next time, when we find another person to sit with us and share their story, we'll see you on down the road. Good night.